Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is July 28th, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. Let's go into the breaking news. A lot of bus crashes. Police, everyone accounted for unhurt in an Arizona tour bus that flipped in flood waters. That's coming out of ABC 15. Also, helicopter that crashed in Pennsylvania, killing 5, took off from central New York. Alrighty then. Philadelphia shatters all-time single-day rainfall record of 6.63 inches. That's coming out of NBC Philadelphia. Let's see what else we got going on. And I said, dust storm reportedly reduces visibility to 50 yards in Baker, California. That's coming out of Breaking Weather. Local media, death toll in Italian bus crash rises to 36. Rescuers find 11 survivors. BBC breaking. Tour bus carrying 31 reportedly flips after being pushed in a flood wash near Kingman, Arizona. That was out of ABC 15. So we're getting a lot of bus crashes. Alrighty then. Buses, helicopters, trains, I don't know what's going on. Be prepared for anything. Also, I saw on Alex Jones's channel that he was having the statement underneath his report off of the YouTube channel, the Alex Jones channel, said Alex Jones to leave America. Heads up on that. Okay. Now, let's go into the E&E news, energy news. Now, I was going into the world one. Let's first read the one for U.S.-Canada, though. Emergency declared at U.S. nuclear plant. Fire shuts down reactor, reports of black smoke. Company says no release of radioactivity above normal operating limits, and that's out of Callaway. Heads up, Callaway nuclear plant. Let's go into the world. Nothing was under Fukushima. Okay, Kyoto. Worker panicking while trying to keep water level up in reactor during typhoon. Seawater reportedly overran cooling water intake in Taiwan. My goodness. And there's another one I saw in Switzerland. Let's see. This was on July 14th. Fox News, outrage after radioactive cesium found in lake near nuclear plant. Used for drinking water. Mayor. No one ever told me of abnormally high concentrations. This is coming out of Mühlberg, Switzerland. Also, on July 6th, no immediate safety threat. Nuclear reactor shuts down for unknown technical malfunction at South Korean plant. Oh my goodness. Do you see what's going on? Do we really need to build any more plants? Alrighty then. I don't know. Heads up, black smoke out of Callaway. Reports of black smoke. Just heads up on that. Alrighty then. Alright. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you again on the flip side. Be ready, prepared for anything. I'm attaching Dr. Deagle. Alrighty then. Also, there's a meteor shower on July 30th. A quid, if I'm saying it right, sorry if I'm not. A quid meteor showers on July 30th. Alright, be prepared for anything. Also, there is tropical storm Fossie, which is almost like borderline hurricane status going towards Hawaii on the same latitude. Then you had the Dorian coming up west over by the Caribbean. And then there's also a tropical depression over in the Philippines. So heads up. All three are like lined up on the same latitude. So keep an eye on your weather. Be prepared for anything. And I'll see you again tomorrow on the flip side. Take care. Sorry it's so late. And I'm attaching things right now.
Welcome back, and John, you know you're a prep expert, and of course your website is libertyman.com, and your site is homeland-defense for you. Homeland-defense4you.com. John, every day you do your show, and you're tracking a lot of issues. I know we talked about this before, that Professor McKinney is going to be very cautious before he releases information about the 10th planet, although he's, over the last decade on the jmccsci.com, he's been on the Discovery Channel and the Learning Channel, etc. When we talk about the comets, this is the year of the comet, and he mentioned that this comet's not 5 kilometers across. I pulled up the actual papers that are published in Open Science this week, and there's millions of tons of dust literally every day being released from this comet. This is a big sucker comet. It's estimated by Professor McKinney, and he's being conservative because he doesn't want to think things off the wall. Right. This is probably the largest comet to pass the inner solar system, and it's a sun grazer in over 3,000 years. It's a big fella, and it's going to pass by in September, October, November. It's going to take a month to completely pass through the tail of it by Mars. And in November, it's going to actually sun graze at 700,000 kilometers over the sun, which means it's going to make a great big storm. If it just happens to be that storm is aimed at us, we're in deep doo-doo. You know, astrophysically, if we have a CME that even glances at us, we're going to have a bad day.
Absolutely. Well, Professor McKinney is often quoted and misquoted. A lot of people want to grab his coattails and ride his...
yeah, we're not going to do that. But I have my own independent sources for years about the idea of what we call it. I don't call it Planet X. I call it the Passover star or the red dwarf, because it's not a planet. It's basically a failed star that didn't fully ignite like our yellow dwarf Sol. It is a very powerful magnetic field generator, and it operates at a distance both gravitationally and through a dipole effect. Because when you bring a magnetic dipole near a nuclear reaction, you speed up the criticality of the reaction. So that's what's going on. And most of the planets are nuclear reactors, and the sun, of course, its reactions occur, as Professor McKinney says, not deep in the core of the sun, but on the surface. The nuclear reactions on the sun occur in the plasma jets around the planet, because the actual surface of the planet is around 5,000 to 6,000 degrees. Believe it or not, it's not millions. The surface of the sun is around 6,000, maybe up to 10,000 degrees, which will melt most of our metals, but it's not millions. The temperature is the heliosphere above the planet's surface of the sun, because it's a large, even since planet or object. And when they have a plasma filament, those filaments can be millions of miles long. Above, they're 100,000 miles above the surface of the planet, where the real heat is 100 million degrees. And when these things explode, they are like 100 million degrees with millions and millions of tons of plasma. And there's a number of ways, and then you can give us a list of them. You get light, visible light and infrared light. Then you get an electron storm that comes, the CME, and then finally you get protons, which take a little longer to arrive, which can be a couple of days, and then finally the plasma, which arrives in the planet 2 to 4 days after the initial light. So you often get actually a warning sign that, hey, when the plasma and the protons arrive, you're going to have a really rough time, because it perturbs the magnetosphere, can trigger off earthquakes and volcanoes, and cause really bad weather to happen. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, Professor McKinney talks about action at a distance, where these bodies will act on us with their gravitational effect and electrical energy of both. And there are accounts within recorded history of lightning bolts, or what might be called lightning bolts, between planets, and observations of the atmosphere and water of Mars being sucked off the planet. There's written accounts of that in our own history.
Right.
So
that's why they refer to the god Jupiter as a thrower of lightning bolts, because they could see lightning bolts literally jumping off of Jupiter into solar space. So, you know, the reason why these ancients, they weren't stupid. People say, well, these must be stupid to think there's a god that throws lightning bolts. It's because they could see the plasma discharge across intersolar space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these things could happen again, and the possibility of them happening in our lifetimes is pretty great.
Right. Well, we have conditions now that are basically identical. And, you know, Moses, who's out in the desert of Midian, he was trained up. You know, most people don't know what the name Moses means. And I like to use a little humor here. If you see somebody from Norway and their name is Johnson, it would be like calling somebody son, you know?
Right.
The fact is, the name Moses means he was drawn out of Ramesses. So his actually real name is Ramesses Moses. It's like, in other words, he would have been the next pharaoh, and he was not biologically. Right. His title was, this guy is so smart, so remarkable, so well trained by the high priest, so exceptional. Even though he's a Hebrew, he's the adopted son who's going to be the next pharaoh. So the Ramesses II was an inbred idiot that replaced Moses when he had to head off to the desert of Midian after he killed the Egyptian who was persecuting Hebrew slaves when he realized he was Hebrew. So what people need to understand that Moses was not an average guy.
No.
He was a doctor, believe it or not. He was a surgeon. He was a general. He was an astronomer. He was a linguist. He could literally do virtually anything, from growing food to metallurgy to literally controlling an army and a battlefield. And back in those times, the generals also were surgeons because they had to treat their own people who were hurt in the battlefield, dress their wounds, sew them up, and prevent infections. Most people don't know that. They don't know how remarkable Moses was. When he wrote the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, directly transcribed by God, which they talk about with the Bible code, he's probably one of the most amazing minds of the ancient world.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Right. So when people say Moses, that meant he was going to be Pharaoh. Okay? So the devil had his plans to say, this guy here, we don't want him to serve God. We're going to make him Pharaoh and suck him off to make sure that he does not serve the Most High God. Because if he writes this Pentateuch, which starts the Bible, things are going to go south for Lucifer and his buddies.
Well, we can only hope.
Yeah, well, they are going south. And I mentioned also last night, I tell people, I said, this is something I want to breach because there's a lot of Christians out there who need kind of what I call setting things right. And this is, by the way, something that's not my opinion. It's one of those things that once in a while I'll say, this is a thus saith the Lord. The rapture, and this is what Jesus' words are, not mine, is there the vulture is. You can take the Aramaic and the Hebrew. Where the vulture is, there's the body. And he says, I will take the tares and pull them out and burn them in the fires. So the rapture that people keep on talking about to get out of here, when things like get out of hell card, you know, the world, end of the world is a hell of a mess card. Forget it. God is going to keep us from that hour of tribulation because he's going to take the evil out of the world. He's going to stop this mess. He's going to intervene when things look darkest. Our God is God. Just like in ancient Israel, when he preserved the Hebrews, he's going to take the evil out. They're not going to get an advance warning like the day I think that the earth stood still, that movie back in the 50s or 60s.
Right.
There's no advance warning. God's just going to do it. And one is in two in the field and one is taken. The one taken isn't the good guy heading off to heaven. The one taken is the evil one taken off for judgment.
Well, we're going to be living in interesting times, no doubt.
We do indeed. And any comments about the H7N9 or the Hajj and the and this numerous coronavirus too? Because we have a converging superstorm of bad news. But again, our God is God, thank God. Because if you want to believe, you better start hoping and praying that you become a Christian and a believer real quick. Because if you run out of time and if just don't have more spittle to spit on the people who want to give the news, people out there better listen. If there isn't a God to intervene, we're done. our world, our civilization, our society, our nation has no hope without the one that brings hope, the Most High God and His Son Yeshua HaMashiach, the Father that came in the flesh.
Well, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, the World Health Organization had a meeting, an emergency meeting, and they decided that it did not warrant health regulations at this time. So travel is not restricted between countries.
In other words, panic is delayed, but not completely preempted.
Is your whole health constantly challenged?
I want to give some of your comments here, Ian and John. I pulled up one of the Drudge articles here, and the first one is Chris Christie saying, "We're the expert on this. You've told me years ago, John, you travel with the Prophecy Club, that you saw documents showing that they're expecting a 70-foot plus rise in sea level, and that's cataclysmic for a number of areas along the eastern coast of the United States. Most of the district criminals in Washington, D.C., and Virginia, and many of these state areas would be underwater, significantly underwater,
right,
if it rose 70 feet, wouldn't it?"
It would wipe out where a huge percent of our population live, work, and play.
Yeah, exactly. And what are you finding on your radar in terms of other news items?
Well, I want you to know that the Chief of Police of St. Louis City has requested the use of drones in his police activities in North St. Louis.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I pulled up a Campus Reform Watch article here. It says, "Watch, students sign petition to legalize abortion after childbirth." What do you think of that? This is at George Mason University. Signed a petition on Wednesday demanding lawmakers legalize fourth trimester abortions. Wow.